Hi everyone, and welcome back to the channel and our continuing build of the boat Shibumi. In this episode we're going to be looking at the fitting of the ram for the steering, the hydraulic ram, and making that all work, and some limit stops on the rudder. And also, as you can see here behind me, the steel has finally come. Well, not finally, because there's no one messing me around. The steel has come for the tops of the tanks. I'm going to be cleaning these back. They have been left out, but they're in very good condition. They're brand new. The mill scale is actually rusted off, which is perfect for me, and I'm going to start fitting the 3 hatches into each of the 2 lids and cut them down to size. They're cut on the width, the length I just need to shorten them just a few inches. 2 things to be done with the rudder. Firstly, I need to mount where the ram sits on to the boat and make sure it's good and strong and triangulated, we'll call it, so that there's no flexing in where it operates from. And the second thing is to put in the stops. So I'll show you what I've done. You might have seen a picture of the ram in place on one of the pictures that went up on the Facebook channel. So let me just turn the camera again. So here we go. So here is our Vita's ram. It's about a third stronger than it needs to be for this boat, so it's quite bulky, which is fine. I've just drawn a centre line on that, or near centre line, but it's close enough for what we need to do. Now, an actual rudder is only efficient up to 30 to 35 degrees of travel. So in order to make sure that I had my 30, I measured my stroke, we'll call it, or my radius of the turn, and I made a little CAD drawing, which I will show you here. So I'm trying to balance this here. So the length of my radius is 222 millimeters, and then I marked it out at 30 degrees, and funnily enough, 222 degrees, it's just one of these funny things that works out in maths, and it also is 222 millimeters to rotate 30 to 30 either side, port or starboard. The ram I have is, the stroke of it is 225 millimeters. So I have 3 millimeters to the good. So my actual maximum angle, if I balance this correctly, should be 31 and nearly 32 degrees either side. Maybe 31, I will work that out, but I'm not worried about that. Anything after that, the rudder isn't efficient, and you're just going to do damage, and it's not a good idea. So that's where I'm going to go. Now this isn't level, so I'm going to try and get the camera in a better angle where I can see it. Flip the viewfinder around, let's see where I'm going here. There it is there. So you can see that's dipping down, and this needs to be raised up. This needs to be raised up to be level. I'll put it back into the halfway mark. So that's the halfway mark there. I have a little line drawn right there. You can see the little marker. That's 112.5 millimeters. So that means that to get this level, it needs to come up off the floor a tiny bit. So apologies for the very bad camera work. I'm actually working the whole camera in reverse, trying to get it. So I'm going to put that in here, build a little platform for it that this can bolt down onto, and then triangulate it into somewhere to make sure that it's absolutely rock solid. I don't want it flexing, this beam here, even though it is tied into this. I want it to be very strong, so everything on this side is perfect. So I think it's the best thing to do is build a little thing and then take a little tab back into here and just a bit of plate or something, some little angle or something. So I'll come up with all that, so that's what I'm going to do today. So I just had a shot there. I've just literally clamped. Now this isn't level, it's down at least 50 mil, but that's okay. This is swivel on this. So I've just clamped it roughly here where I thought it would be right, and believe it or not it is. So I'm actually going to mark it so I have a position. So I have my trusty little angle now. I don't know if you're going to be able to read this, but all the way to one side, just running off this here, you can see it there with the black line, it should line up there, and that's giving me a reading of 58 degrees And if I go to the other side, to the end limit there, and work it back. That's going to 57.9. I'll set it back to 58.1. I do it again, just line up perfectly there. So that's 57. Just make it back to 58. There we go, 58. That's 100%. You can see the line there. I'll just move it in so the camera can see it. Should be able to see it there. Just the line lining up perfectly with it. So that's 58, which means that 58 from 90 is 32, which gives me 32 degrees either way. So my original figure of 31 odd holds water. So this is actually going to be the position this needs to be in. It's the least amount of travel for the little ball swivel that's back here at the end of the ram. It works absolutely perfect, only for the fact that the height is wrong. And then we're back to midships again. So I can mount this in the way I want to. So I'm going to design up a little bracket for that, make it up in the garage, and then we weld it in later. And then to do that, I'll just take out the pin here. And I'll just leave this to go to one side and sit there. So the limits now, I think they're in shot, and make sure my head isn't in the way. So the limits, the absolute rubber limits, can be out here. And I'll just use the level. It literally just needs to be a piece of metal here on each side. And I'll probably take a brace from here down to that rib here, just a bit of flat or something, to give it a bit of strength, that it's not just relying on this. Not that it's ever going to be an issue, but I think that's what I'm going to do. Literally just put a piece of angle iron onto the tops of these, and it just means that the rudder can't go any further than that, and that'll do it the finest. And into one of these little bits of metal, I'm also going to make a hole big enough to take my spare pin. If you remember, I made two of these pins to go in here. I once had a skipper boat that this pin went missing on. It was mounted upside down. I think the R-clip wore away. It fell down into the bilge, and I had a steering arm that I couldn't connect, and I literally couldn't find anything on that boat. It wasn't our boat that could connect that, and it meant that I had to drive off the shore. So the other thing we have is I've made the square of this, a little square section to go on top of this for the emergency tiller, because we'll have one of those as well. And I'm thinking of coming up with some kind of an idea that I might drill this and put a little plate that can be bolted in to hold that tiller down should it, rough waters, you only have a little square there to get this onto, something that can keep it, or drill this and maybe a set of bolts or something to go into it. So I have to figure that bit out. But the storage of the spare pin will be in here. I'm not going to see without a spare pin. So I'm back in the workshop, and as it happens, we've already used one of these scrapped pieces of steel. These be on the back of TVs. So it's 5mm mild, so it's fine. So these aren't quite, they're 9mm, so I presume they're for an M8. So this is just a tester, and these happen to have these holes in the corners. So I'm going to make this bracket, this little plate to meet this, slightly bigger than I need. And I'll tell you why, and that is because down the line we never know what's going to come at us in terms of steering and problems. So if this ever fails and we need to put in a different brand, I've more of a footing here to mount this than I would have if I just made this absolutely just for this one. So it means that I can change the model of it if I need to. So the spacer I need in total height needs to be 56 or 57mm, which will give me this being absolutely level to the rudder, which is the way I want it. Now it really doesn't matter because there's enough movement in the whole thing to allow it to move around. So all I've done is I've just, because of this hole here being absolutely perfect where it is, I've just used the exact same spacing there and I've marked that up. I'm going to grind that out, just cut that with the grinder. I'll sand it all, and then I'm actually going to, because it's sitting on the flat plate underneath but slightly offset, I'm going to weld a little bit of bar, a little bit of tube underneath it. I'll do that in here, and then on the other side I'll weld all around it and then take a tab back to the actual rib. So that's going to do me for now. So that's the plate. I'll tidy that up. I'll round the corners so that you don't get reefed off it. I've drilled them out to 8.5. Just allow for a little bit of wiggle room. What do you call it? And these obviously aren't the bolts that are going to be going through, but that's fitting perfectly. So the idea then is that I need to make up this 55. So I have 5 millimeters here. I need 55 millimeters, and I'm going to use this inch and quarter or something like that tube. I'm going to mount that here. I'm going to slightly offset it so it sits on the rail of the other one, and then I'll come off it then with a piece of flat to triangulate it so that this is the whole frame underneath isn't taking all the full load of the rubber. So what I've done here now is I have my piece made that you've seen. Now I've opened this, I've had a look in here, I've about 25 more millimeters of thread there. So I'm giving myself 5 millimeters of play to be able to adjust this if I need to. I don't think I will need to, but we shouldn't have to worry about it. Now, because I have 225 millimeters of travel, which is just here. Right there. So that's the halfway point. I'll push it into that point, which is there. Pin and up on our little stand. So there it is fitted. I was going to put a piece back to here, but looking at where it is, I actually think it'll be strong enough, but I'll review that down the road. I might stick a piece in there yet, but it's certainly I think I have the strength. I have enough cross member here and I have another one just behind, and this is a rib. So realistically you can't go anywhere. They pull tons off it. So I've just cleaned up these 2 shiny bits here. I'm going to mount the 2 rudder stop limits, which are here. I've rounded them at the top there. You can see this, the edge there. Just made them a little bit more thingy. They're very simple. They're going to be very simple thing altogether. And I'll just mount them whatever way. So I'll just put the camera back up and we'll weld these in. So there we have it. Rudder stops in. They meet perfectly. Check out that pin. Same on the other side. So that'll stop. There we are. Very happy with that now. This is the pin that'll go through. And as you know, I built a spare one of those. So I've just found that and I've drilled it out. And I'm actually going to weld it in here. Don't know if you can see it, but it's just welded in there. Just a couple of tacks. Keep it there forevermore. And basically the pin then, the spare pin, can live down the side of it. So it'll always be there, the spare. So I'm going to put that in now.